In this video, I'm going to be fixing, changing and transforming a whole handful of LEGO sets, upgrading each one, making them better with different models that you can find and do for yourself from the website Rebrickable, and then even creating a giant build for them later in the video. But we can start with a pretty underrated set, the Onyx Cinder, which definitely went under the radar when it was released, even dropping to over 50% off. But it has some cool play features with these engines and a nice little interior, but there are two big upgrades we're going to do to this, starting with a pretty big missing main character. And whilst the minifigure lineup was pretty solid, the fact that they didn't include an SM33 was honestly a tragedy, as he is one of the coolest members of the show in my opinion. And so of course we had to buy a custom figure for him, so I unboxed this one from Firestar Toys, and it just fits perfectly in the set with this awesome custom head mold and some lovely printing all over. But now we can fix the other big flaw, which is the lack of one of the biggest features of the ship in universe, and that is when it sheds its outer skin to escape and reveal this nice sleek ship underneath. We're going to shrink it down by building this awesome little micro scale Onyx from Faraway Bricks on Rebrickable. There's a link to him and every other build that we do in this video in the description down below, but it didn't take many pieces and overall looks pretty similar to the set, just a shrunken down version with the same engine function, and then also of course this big red button on the back which you can press to release the outer hull and escape the danger. Whilst that was just a little fun extra build, we're now going to be building an alternative build for the Arc 170, repurposing it into a ship that LEGO haven't made for over a decade. That's right, we're converting it into a Z95 Headhunter, using instructions by TK Goggles and only the pieces found in the Arc 170. I firstly pulled out all the pieces and organised them into containers to make construction a little easier, and it comes together with a really nice build. There's some pretty complex techniques for the back section. You even have a few extra leftover pieces to build this small radar dish, and of course the stand for the ship. You can place the pilot in its cockpit, and we even added a small sticker from the set on the windshield. Looking at it next to the Arc 170, I think it fits really nicely into our fleet, but we're going to be coming back and adding an even cooler Clone Wars vehicle later in the video, as well as building a massive hangar for them, so stay tuned for that. Turning our attention to the astromech that came in that set, and I don't know why LEGO hasn't started doing this upgrade yet, but you can take 3 small pieces, being just this small bar piece, a 1x1 stud with a hole, and a cheese slope, and create this third leg for your droids. It really gives them more motion, and you can do it in any colour you like, such as brown, silver, yellow, green, dark red, anything you can really think of, and it's pretty basic, but it's just a nice little upgrade to take it to the next level. Bumping the size up now into an iconic vehicle in the Star Wars universe that LEGO has recreated a handful of times now, it is time for the Imperial Star Destroyer. So I quickly popped it open and began building that main Dorito shape. 5 bags down now and we have the structure mainly complete. This hollow table has to be an absolute highlight for me. It looks phenomenal with that mini Star Destroyer. You then construct these massive side panels, which you clip in down the side of the ship and fold up like so. And you can do the same for the other side, before putting together the main central structure to finish it off. Honestly, I do think this is the best Star Destroyer we've ever had, but we're going to make some big changes around here as Vader has lost control of this ship and Grand Admiral Thrawn has taken over. We saw Thrawn with a bunch of ex-Imperials hiding out in the Ahsoka show, and so I'm going to be transforming this set into his Chimera, using this amazing build from Kodiana Bricks. I collected a bunch of gold pieces and began by removing a few panels, changing a few things, before completely decking out the top upper section and parts of the lower section in all of this gold glory. With that done, you then create this giant pattern on the bottom of the ship in white, which just looks phenomenal. But of course, we need somewhere for this to sit, so I built this black stand which can actually display a few of your minifigures and place the Chimera on top of it. And I think this was so worth the upgrade. It only had a small part to play in the Ahsoka show, but it looks absolutely majestic up on this stand and I think will look great on display. With those hints of white and gold scattered across the entire ship, let me know which one you'd rather display. Next up is this Imperial Dropship versus Rebel Speeder set. And with that now built up and the 2 ships created, I think it's time we destroy them and transform them into something much better, being this amazing Republic fighter tank by Will_crafting. This pairs really nicely with the original set, but also has some fantastic play features and looks pretty similar to the one we got from LEGO. I'm actually baffled that you can create this from the same pieces that it took to build the other 2 models. And if you think that's impressive, next I grabbed the Sarlacc Pit and Desert Skiff set, smashing it on the floor in order to get the pieces, which I then organised into neat piles to begin building this AAT, which was also designed by Will on Rebrickable. Again, it's hard to see how this came from the Sarlacc Pit, but you can see we had a lot of leftover pieces and is actually really big in comparison to some of the newer ones LEGO has made. It has the cool main cannon as well as these small side cannons, which are actually the right way up as opposed to the one LEGO gave us. It has a spot in the front for a droid as well as a place at the top for a gunner, and I'd say this model is pretty robust and scales well in a droid army. But now we're going to switch over from the droids to the Republic, as I'm going to be swapping all of the colours in the new Coruscant Guard Republic gunship using a bunch of extra pieces. I'm essentially building this setup, but swapping all of the dark red pieces for white and changing a few other things. For this I used a video made by SolidBrixStudios as a template, which I believe he has now released instructions for, which I'll also leave in the description. Okay, that section took ages because I didn't just have to swap out the colours, but I also had to plan out on how to build these extra doors, which are really cool. Because obviously the main model has that one big door, but obviously that's not accurate. And this was a nice easy mod made by Ewok Pilot. It didn't require too many extra pieces, but looks really clean. And so now all we have to do is crack open the last two bags and build the wings. So I put together the wings, attaching one to either side, adding some small rockets on top, and overall you can swap this gunship for less than $100, and I think it looks so much better than the original set. And also you have a load of extra pieces to add to your collection. However, it's not done yet. I grabbed this package as I needed to build up this small set and steal a few pieces, but I quickly put together this mech, which has a cool blade for the arm, but I can't get distracted and ripped off the shoulder pieces, as I'm going to be using those, as well as these other pieces, to create some bubble turrets. With one created, I could put together the clone trooper by removing his legs, and then folding down the various parts to pose him inside, and I think this looks absolutely fantastic. I attached them to the gunship, posing some pilots, and our model was complete. If this was a real set, I would buy so many of them. I love the double doors, and of course it still has the carrying handle from the original set. If LEGO did release this, they'd have so many options for minifigures. I think including a Jedi, 2 clone pilots in the updated style, as well as a couple of regular clones would be fantastic. However, you can even go ahead and swap out the Jedi for more specific legions, such as the 501st or 91st Recon, which makes it so much more versatile than the Coruscant Guard gunship. And I thought it would be a fun way to end the video by building a giant UCS style Republic hangar bay. So I took these giant 16x16 plates, flipping them all together until we had a giant rectangle ready to build on. So firstly I created this small parking bay to house the gunship, before going ahead and building another one off to the side. With this done, I then built up the entranceway with these 2 opening blast doors, before building a wall around it, adding various different details and greebling techniques all along it, even using a giant section where the studs are on their sides to add even more details and textures, like these small Republic logos. And now with the back wall halfway built, I continued tiling off the floor, adding in more pipes and placing even more bricks to make the wall even higher. I finished off the 2 remaining corners, and I used so many of these 2x2 tiles to finish off the floor of this build. I then began to work on the entrance to the hangar, where ships fly in and out, by building up these 2 big pillars, which I then connected in the middle and tiled off. And now our hangar was complete. But this is where the fun begins, and I started placing down various different containers and minifigures, with this squad of 91st Recon troopers being briefed, and various different figures scattered around with some shock troopers guarding the entrance, these 2 Jedi greeting each other, more modified droids from earlier, as well as crates in the center here and a few clones loading them up, before adding a refueling station over to the other side for our second ship, placing in the gunship, which has a small ladder so that the pilots can get up to their cockpits, and we can see the 91st Recon coming out of the ship with Stas Ali. On the right I decided to go with the Arc 170, and I think it looks really good with the pilot rushing to get inside. And you can also swap it out for the Z95 Headhunter we created earlier, which also looks fantastic. And overall, I think this would be an amazing display piece / UCS set. However, it's definitely very unrealistic. I don't think LEGO would ever do something like this, but let me know whether you'd buy this set and how much you'd pay for it in the comment section down below, and also tell me your favorite model that I created in this video. Again, every designer and model can be found linked in the description down below if you want to build any of these models for yourself. And like always, if you've enjoyed this video, I think you'd like the one popping up on your screen now, where I did this for many more other sets.